then let's make sure we have a positive intention for meditating, for listening to teachings, for doing everything that we do in our life. So of course we all want to be happy, and that's our basic intention. But it's important to identify correctly the causes of happiness so that we can practice them. Because our normal worldly mind that says, I want to be happy and not suffer, thinks that the way to procure happiness is to care primarily about ourselves and to try and line up everything in the world outside of ourselves in a way that corresponds with the way we want it to be. So that's our usual strategy for finding happiness. The Buddha asked us to check our own experience and see if that strategy for finding happiness actually works. So what happens when, living in the midst of so many other beings, we care primarily for ourselves? What happens in this life? And what kind of karma do we create for what kind of result in future lives? So ponder that for a moment. When we really look closely, we see that that strategy for finding happiness actually doesn't work very well, and to the contrary, creates problems in our life and gets us involved in destructive actions, which then create the cause for problems in future lives. So seeing that, focusing with our self-centered thought on our own happiness is a dead end. I should say focusing on our own happiness in this lifetime is a dead end. And then let's stretch our minds, stretch our vision and think of the happiness that goes beyond this lifetime, particularly securing a fortunate rebirth in the future, and then even beyond that, attaining full liberation from the cycle of existence. And then stretching the mind even further to think of the ultimate bliss, the ultimate sense of fulfillment that arises from becoming a fully awakened Buddha, and then spontaneously, effortlessly, without having to generate any motivation, just being of benefit to whatever sentient beings are receptive to being benefited in whatever way they're receptive. So really to stretch our mind and see that we can attain these spiritual states which bring about greater well-being for ourselves and for others. And so thus to have the motivation to attain them. And to see what we're doing now as part of the path to actualize that attainment. So paying attention to our motivation is really very important. No? Because if our motivation isn't clean, clear, our actions are not clean, clear. And then the results that our actions bring are going to be problematic. Yeah. So things really stem from our mental state. So that's something we have to take care of. Considering that we can't control the rest of the world, then the one thing we can manage and control, our own heart, our own mind, and considering that that's the source of happiness and pain, then let's focus on that. Okay? Because otherwise, boy, we get so tangled up. And we have to really take the time to cultivate that good motivation instead of just saying, okay, yeah, I want to benefit other people. But if we just say it like that, but the thought's not in here, then the self-centered thought takes over and runs the show. I want to benefit them, so I'm going to tell them all their faults so they can improve. Yeah, that's what our self-centered mind does. Oh, this person has faults. They don't realize what they're doing. I better tell them their faults. That will benefit them. Then they can change. So you do this and you do that, and you change. And then we say, for the benefit of all sentient beings. You know? So that's what happens if we don't really check and really take time to cultivate the proper motivation. Okay, similarly, our Dharma practice. Now, I say, okay, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And we sit to meditate. May I experience bliss. May this meditation session completely transform my mind. May it make me relaxed and holy and blissful and transcendent. You see, it becomes all about me, isn't it? May I become blissful, transcendent, happy, And then that leads us to, well, actually, I don't want to think about anything that's uncomfortable, like the first two of the four truths for Aryas, true dukkha, true suffering, and true origins. I don't want to think about those because that doesn't make me happy. I want to meditate on light and love and bliss. Because when I'm happy, then I can do more benefit for the world. Yeah? Do you see how the self-centered thought is so sneaky in there? Yeah? I don't want to look at my ignorance, anger, and attachment. That's uncomfortable. I don't want to think about my own mortality. I don't want to think about getting reborn in cyclic existence. All that is yucky stuff. I want to feel good from my meditation. Yeah? And then, meditation becomes, then it's cheaper than taking drugs. But the purpose is the same. Yeah, it doesn't work as well as drugs, really. But on the other hand, with the opioid epidemic, it's safer than popping pills and shooting fentanyl. Fentanyl, did I say it? Right? Yeah. So, to like I said yesterday, the Buddha meets people where they are, and so as we come to Dharma, we may, initially be seeking our own happiness in this life, and that's fine, okay? But to be able to have happiness in this life, we have to reduce our self-centeredness, because we can see so clearly that, when we make everything about me, then everything becomes a big, painful deal. Yeah? Everything. It's so painful. Do you know what I'm doing? Like, look at the way that person looked at me. They're mad at me. Why are they mad at me? They're always mad at me. No. And we start ruminating. All the other person did is look at us. Yeah? Look at what a big deal we make out of it and inflict so much suffering on ourselves. Yeah? And all this rumination we were talking about a couple of days ago. Again, self-inflicted suffering. The person is no longer doing that to us. But we're remembering it and visualizing it. Yeah, all the people who said they can't visualize. I know, I can close my eyes. I remember exactly the expression on that person's face when they said those words to me. I remember exactly the tone of their voice. Yeah. Such good memory, such clear visualization. Result? Pain. Okay? So, continually checking our motivation and deliberately cultivating it, And it may seem very artificial, initially. Yeah, may I work for the benefit of all sentient beings. Right, how in the world am I ever going to do that? But if you really try and, think about attaining Buddhahood to benefit sentient beings, and think about the qualities you'll have as a Buddha and how that makes benefiting others so much easier, then you can see how that's possible. And you can lift up your mind to a more noble motivation that looks in the long distance, that actually acts as a real stabilizing effect in your life. Yeah, because when you have a long-term spiritual motivation, you don't get aggravated when the cord falls off. Yeah, because you don't want to waste your mental energy and your short life on wanting to slug your computer. I had to work my way through college the last 2 years at UCLA. And so I got one job in the psychiatry department, one job in the psychology department. They were both marijuana research projects. So, legal, government funded. But in one of them, yeah, so I had my own private study, marijuana research, and then the one I was doing for the government. Um, and we were measuring in one of the studies, we were measuring people's responses, to stimuli, to gauge, like when you're driving, can you respond quickly enough, or is it safe to drive, and doing these things. So we had to test people in these machines. And so one of the machines, you go in this booth and they flash a light, these psychological tests that supposedly relate to real life. and then you have to hit, your thing to when you see the flashing. And sometimes, because we did this double blind experiment, so we would get people loaded, and sometimes it was a great experiment. Sometimes, because they drank something, now you're all paying attention. Nobody's falling asleep now. I'm telling a good story. So, so so we would give them a drink and a joint. So one time the drink was THC and the joint was a placebo. Another time the joint was grass and the drink was a placebo. Another time the drink was alcohol and the joint was a placebo. And and then the fourth time, both of them were placebos. They didn't have the fifth time where you give both of them to people at the same time. They didn't do that. But anyway, this machine, we would get people loaded, and then they would have to go on this machine, and with the beeps, and you have to press things. And sometimes the machine wouldn't work properly. Yeah, so like this, that's how I got off on this thing, relating to this. So the machine wouldn't work properly, and we had to get it to work because we had to do the test. So I discovered that if you kick it, it would start working. So periodically, my other research assistant and I, we would kick this, box that people sat in, and then it would stop beeping. It would start beeping correctly. Okay, so my point is, you can't get obsessed about things in this life like your research machinery or your computer, because it just wastes so much time and energy. Okay? Yeah, so that's my point in telling you all of this. I had to wake you up somehow. Okay, so so it's really keep working on your motivation. It's so important. And when you get stuck in your life, When you're ruminating, spinning around a lot, or something like that, when you're quite full of attachment and you want things, I've got to have this, then sit down and just ask yourself, what is my motivation? Yeah. Because I'm somehow stuck. I'm wanting something I can't get, and it's making me miserable. Yeah. I'm upset with somebody, and that's making me miserable. And what's my intention in all of this? You'll see, or at least I see, when I'm obsessed about getting something that I'm not getting, my intention comes down to that external thing will bring me happiness. In other words, there's no way I can find happiness inside myself. I need this. Yeah. And after I get this, then I need this, and I need this, and I need this. And there's no end. Yeah. And then this makes me happy for a while, and then it breaks. And then I'm really miserable. So I see that, why am I so unhappy? Because the mind is not seeing things correctly. It's thinking that the external objects, the external people, have happiness in them. And if I'm close to them, if I possess that thing, then I have happiness. But it's kind of like saying, I have no ability to find happiness and peace and contentment within myself. But we do have that ability. Yeah. We have to develop it and cultivate it, but we do have that ability. Okay? And similarly, if I'm just really bummed out about what somebody said or did to me, again, if I check my motivation, especially when I'm ruminating, I'm going over and over what they did, again and again. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, of course, what shall I do? Yeah, So I'm visualizing what they did to me and thinking, what shall I do? Well, what's the thought behind what shall I do? How can I get them to stop doing that? And the usual way we get people, because we've grown up in this kind of culture, to stop doing things we don't like is to inflict some kind of suffering on them. Verbally tell them off, physically slug them, whatever. Yeah. So there's usually, like I'm not saying always, but usually there's some intention to harm. Even if I'm not the person, because some of us are exploders and we're just, exploders are completely open. It's like, you drive me crazy, you did this. Okay, you know where they're at. Some of us are imploders. What did I do wrong? Something's wrong with me. But they still made this happen. Yeah, something's wrong with me. I can't do things right. But they brought all this out in me. And it hurts. And how can I hurt them back? Because if I hurt them back, then maybe they'll see how much I hurt. Very logical, isn't it? If I hurt you, then you'll see how much I hurt. Yeah. Now, sounds good. What's your experience? When somebody else hurts you, Do you instantly respond with, "Oh, now I see their pain"? You know, they're just retaliating maybe for something we did. Do we respond with, "Oh, no, I see their"? No. So how come we think when we inflict pain on them that now they'll see our pain? Of course they won't. They'll just be more upset, more miserable, and they'll retaliate. You know. So that's how we, I mean, this is personal relationships. This is also international, what's happening between the US and Korea. Same as our personal relationships, except this is the one time when I wish I was president. You know, I have no desire to be in politics, but when it comes to having the nuclear codes, I would trust myself more with them. To just see that we human beings, we want happiness and not suffering, but we're so unclear about what the causes of happiness and the causes of suffering are, that we create the causes of suffering over and over and over again, thinking that we're going to get happiness as a result. There's something somebody said, what is it about doing Einstein? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So the same result. So that makes us all crazy, doesn't it? The Buddha already knows that. That's why he laid out 84,000 afflictions. When it compared, in the sense of seeing reality, we're like way out the window. So this is how we start to pacify the mind, checking the motivation. And then consciously changing it. And sometimes when you do this, it feels like it's harder work than lifting a 2-ton boulder, because sometimes our mind is so stuck that changing the mind takes incredible effort, more effort than, like I said, some physical thing that we have to do. But it is also more worthwhile. Yeah. Because if we keep at it and keep working at our mind by the force of habit, then things will get better. Yeah. So even if we're fabricating a good motivation, it's still worthwhile. What do? They say fake it until you make it. Yeah. And that's really what happens. You do it again and again. And each time you cultivate that altruistic intention, the seeds are planted in your own mind stream on a deeper, deeper level. So quite important to do that. That's why when we wake up in the morning, first thing, what do we think about? Today may I not harm anybody. Today may I benefit people. Today may I hold this bodhicitta motivation dear to my heart. And generate that as the motivation for everything we do. So that's quite important. Otherwise we do serenity meditation, and because they say when you actualize not only serenity but the states of concentration higher than that, the dhyanas and the formless realm absorptions, they say that it's so blissful, so peaceful, that if you don't have an awareness of the disadvantages of cyclic existence, you get stuck in those blissful concentrations for eons. You even get born in those realms. Yeah. But when the karma for birth there ends, then the only way to go is down. And then you're back where you started from. So they say, that we've all had beginningless lifetimes, and we've all, believe it or not, actualized those states of concentration. Can you believe it? That we've had samadhi before, we've had serenity, we've actualized the incredibly refined states of blissful concentration. But because our motivation was not to be free of samsara, our motivation was not to attain Buddhahood, then when the karma for those blissful rebirths ended, we're back here. Okay? So that's why, it isn't just, coming and sitting down and now I'm going to concentrate. I hope you're getting this from the weekend, that there's a lot to learn to really make your concentration meditation go in the right direction and to really make it happen. So it's not just, I want to learn to meditate, sit down, cross my legs, and then do something with my mind, who knows what, watch my breath. um, but, there's a lot of background. There's a lot of understanding of the path, of the basis, the path, the result we're going towards. That is necessary to make all of this happen in the correct way. Okay? So let's go back to Venerable Ji's text. Before we do so, there was a question about when you're visualizing the Om Hung in the Buddha and the light coming into you, that your mind sometimes shifts to the feeling of acceptance and compassion from the Buddha instead of getting focused just on the visualization and the details. Actually, the visualization should connect you to the feeling of acceptance and compassion from the Buddha. And feeling accepted and compassion coming from the Buddha connects you to the visualization. So it isn't either or, the two things happen together. And then, because part of you're trying to develop single-pointedness on the Buddha, that's going to bring an emotional response that's different than visualizing a candle. Yeah? What are you going to get out of visualizing a candle? Yeah? Worry about, it burning down and the whole house catching fire. Yeah? So, And so here, you're just visualizing the light coming from the Buddha into you. You're not thinking of the seed syllables inside yourself, unless you're doing a self-generation practice. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, so we talked about the 5 hindrances. Can you remember them? Sensual desire, malice, lethargy and sleepiness. Yeah, restlessness and remorse, doubt, deluded doubt. Okay. So now she talks about creating balance. So you can really see in Chinese culture, in Chinese art, balance is very important. I think, it may come from Buddhism or maybe the other way around. Okay. So, so Xi here is very squarely saying, listen to this, Someone who wishes to engage in meditation to attain serenity must first generate the great vows to liberate all sentient beings from cyclic existence and to follow the Buddha's way to do this. Yeah? He doesn't put it in the context of a good life, of a good future life, or in the context of liberation. He's going right to the top, and saying if you want to cultivate this, you have to do it on the basis of bodhicitta. So at our level, it's going to be a fabricated bodhicitta, So, so to make that strong vow or determination to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of others, and cultivate that consistently, and then that sets the basis for your concentration. Okay. And then, he says, serenity is cultivated within the framework of recalling that all phenomena exist in dependence on the mind. And he quotes the Sutra of the 10 Grounds that says, throughout the 3 realms, so the desire, form, and formless realms, throughout the 3 realms, there is nothing else at all. It is all created solely from the mind. So that doesn't mean that everything is the mind. We're not talking like that. But everything exists in relationship to the mind. Okay? So that leads us to look at the ultimate nature of phenomena. That things are not some objective reality out there, but they exist in relationship to our mind that is perceiving them, and our mind that is conceiving them and giving them a designation. So that brings us into some awareness of the ultimate nature. Okay, so you see he's quite something here, because usually serenity, when you look at how things are developed, usually serenity is developed before full wisdom. That still holds. But what he's telling us here is when you start your serenity meditation, have some renunciation of samsara, even if it's not full. Have some feeling for bodhicitta. Have some feeling that things exist dependently and are empty of inherent existence. And do your serenity meditation on that, because that will make your meditation completely different than just sitting down and, okay, I'm going to, look at a candle and it'll help me calm my mind. Okay? So he's ramping it up. He's ramping it up because he's looking at the final goal. He is trying, he's assuming that we are very, very earnest, sincere practitioners. So he's guiding us towards, nudging us, pushing us, dragging us towards the final goal of full awakening. Okay? So that's the beginning of the section on being balanced. Okay? Then he goes into things in our life that have to be balanced to attain serenity, or that are conducive for attaining serenity. That's better to say it that way. Okay, so we may have to make some adjustments in our lifestyle, just as somebody who's playing the guitar, the violin, has to adjust their strings and tune them before they start playing. Okay, so first we need to eat the right amount and to eat healthy food. Okay, if we don't eat enough, then the body is malnourished and isn't healthy. If we eat too much, the body and mind become heavy, and then it becomes difficult to meditate. Yeah? So we have to have, a healthy body and mind that is, well, that comes from eating healthy food and the right amount. Not too little, not too much. Okay. That's difficult for us to do. We're extremists, aren't we? Yeah. And most of us are addicted to junk food, which is like totally, not good for our body. And you can feel it after you eat junk food or after you drink Pepsi and this kind of stuff, or you can feel how it affects your body. Okay. Because otherwise, he says, dormant disorders may arise. The physical elements will be out of balance and the mind will be unclear. So what we eat and how much we eat affects how we feel, both physically and mentally. Okay, so that's first thing to balance. Second thing is to sleep the right amount. Okay, and at the same time that we sleep the right amount, see if we can sleep 5 minutes, less than what we're used to sleeping. In other words, sleep the right amount, but also, since sometimes we think the right amount is actually more than we need, and since our life is short, see if you can minimize it, just 5 minutes, and then later, after a while, another 5 minutes. So see if that works for you. It may work, it may not, but it's a good thing to practice, okay? And then when we wake up in the morning, okay, because he says here, indulging in sleep wastes our precious human life and makes the mind dark and heavy, not at all bright. So, so we want a bright, light mind that's suitable for meditation. And then when we wake up in the morning, to remember impermanence and to renew our determination to attain awakening. Okay? Then after that, when we sit down, then we have to bring the body, breath, and mind in balance. So this is very, very good here, to bring the body, breath, and mind, those three in balance. Okay, because they're interrelated. What you do with one affects the other. Yeah. Because have you noticed that your breathing pattern reflects what emotionally is going on inside of you? Have you ever noticed that? When you're stressed, how do you breathe? Very quickly, and it's also from up here. When you're relaxed, how do you breathe? Yeah, slower, and it's from down here. Yeah, so to be aware of that, okay? So here he gives us an exercise to do, okay? Okay, so by adjusting and balancing the body, it makes the breath more subtle, which in turn makes the mind more subtle. And and the subtler the mind is, the more conducive it is for attaining serenity. Okay? Of course, it goes the other way too. If your mind is more balanced and subtle, your breathing patterns change, and then your body becomes more relaxed. Yeah, you can see these if you watch in your own experience. Okay, we're going to get to more of that in a minute. But he also says the break times between meditation sessions are very important, because what we do then, we bring to the meditation cushion. Like I was saying before, if we talk with somebody and then go sit, we're reviewing the conversation, What do I think about what they said? Did I say the right thing, or do they like me? What are we going to talk about next? These kinds of things, okay? Or if you watch TV, or, you'd bring all that to the cushion. Especially, some people ask, why, for example, for monastics, we don't sing, dance, play music, watch entertainment. It's because the mind just soaks that up, and that's what you're thinking about when you sit down. Yeah? You're humming the latest song that you just heard, no matter what it was. Or even you listen to classical music, it's very emotive. And, your mind is carried away with the emotion. You watch entertainment's all about sex and violence. You sit down, what's coming to your mind? You're reviewing the movie, all this kind of stuff. Okay? So, therefore, we should really think about how to spend the break times before meditation session. Okay, now, when we do sit down to meditate, we begin by settling the body into a comfortable and stable posture. So, if possible, we sit in the Vajra position. So that's the left foot on the right thigh, the right foot on the left thigh. If you can't do that, then put your right foot down, keep your left foot up. If you can't do that, put both of them flat. If you can't do that, sit cross-legged, regular cross-legged. If you can't do that, then sit on a bench or a chair. If you're sitting on a chair when you meditate, sit up straight, don't lean back, and have your feet flat on the floor, not crossed. Okay? So the body should be erect, the spine straight, okay, not slumped over, not thrust forth. Okay, your limbs are symmetrical on both sides of your body, like we were saying, right? It's interesting here. He has it left hand on the right. Yeah? And you see some of the Chinese statues, it's left hand on the right. Tibetans and Chinese don't always agree. So, in the Tibetan tradition, it's the right on the left. But the Tibetans say they took it from India. So, India and China also don't always agree. Yeah, so it's like that. Yeah. And you can move your limbs a little bit before you settle them into a firm position like this. Yeah. Your head and your neck are straight. Some people, you may not realize it. Your head's going like this. I notice it. I might start correcting people. Yeah? But your head's like this. Shouldn't be like that. It should be like this. Or your head's down there. It should be like that. Or that way. Maybe not so much, but some things, it's not completely with your back straight and your head. Yeah. Okay. And so you want your head straight, not tilted to one side, not turned upwards, as if you're looking through bifocals, and not turned downwards on your way to sleep. Okay. But level, tuck your chin in just a little bit. Okay. So they say your nose is above your navel. Yeah, so you're not leaning forward where your nose is out here and your belly button is in there. Okay, and you're not leaning backwards or side to side. Okay? Okay, so that's balancing the body, putting your body in a firm, stable position. Then second, we balance the breath. Okay? So we do this by first exhaling the stale breath gently through the mouth, while imagining that any blockings in our internal energy system that all these blockages are being released. Okay, so it's not a big sigh. It's not. That's usually, if you have that, that's usually an indication of an imbalance. If somebody's sighing a lot, okay, but it's just a very gentle, exhaling the stale air, okay, and thinking that your energy system is clear. The Tibetans have another meditation to do, but here we'll stick with this one for right now. So you might do that just, 2-3 times, get rid of the stale air, and then you close your mouth. Yeah, provided that your nose is free. Okay, your tongue is against the upper palate. Your eyes are slightly closed, like I said before, if they can be a little bit open. There's light coming in so you won't get drowsy, but you're not looking at anything. So if anything, your eyes are slightly open, they're down here on the floor in front of you. Yeah, not looking at anything, not looking, oh, that floor, they need to vacuum it. Not like that, okay? So, and then you breathe through your nose. And then while you're meditating, you sit still. You're not rocking from side to side. Okay? You're not opening your eyes and seeing what other people are doing. You're not shifting your head like this. Yeah? Same when we're chanting. We're chanting. We should be sitting up straight. Yeah? And our head should be straight. We should be focused on what we're chanting. We shouldn't be looking around the room with our eyes open. Yeah, but focused on what we're saying. Okay, so then before you begin meditation, you adjust the breath if it becomes windy, uneven, or ordinary. Okay? So there's 3 things here. So this helps the breath to become more subtle. So windy breathing is when inhaling and exhaling produces a sound. Okay? So, that's pretty gross. But, if your breathing is producing a sound that, I'm not saying it should be totally soundless. Yeah. But if it's producing some kind of sound that's, a little bit too much, then that makes the mind scattered and unfocused. Yeah. Like when you're tense and you're stressed, your breathing is quicker. The breathing, the breath makes a sound. So you want to be mindful of that and just see if you can not fix your breath, but adjust your breath so that it's not making a lot of noise. Then uneven breathing can occur even if the breath is noiseless. And here, what uneven means is the breath catches. It doesn't flow smoothly. And you can feel that, like when you're upset or something, your breath is not at all smooth. Okay? So we may need to we may need to adjust our breath, so that it doesn't catch, so it isn't stuck, so that it isn't blocked, so that the in and out breath flows smoothly. Okay? So that's the second one, uneven breath. Then ordinary breath occurs when the breath is still coarse, even though there's no sound, and even though it doesn't catch, even though it's even. And so breathing in an ordinary mind, he says, makes the mind tired. Okay? So, you try and, it's a process of becoming more observant, of really having our introspective awareness on finely tuned so that we can be aware of how we're breathing. Yeah. And not just when we sit down to meditate, but check on that throughout the day. Because like I said, the state of our breath will tell us a lot about the state of our mind. Yeah? When our breath is short, from up here, it tells us we're tense, we're stressed, we're nervous, we're worried. Yeah. When our breath is deeper from down here, it tells us we're relaxed. Okay? So to just be aware of the body position. Yeah? Check, every periodically throughout the day, just check, are your muscles somehow tight? And if they are, relax them. Because sometimes they get tight, you don't even notice them getting tight. You relax them, then you check a minute later and they're tight again, and you didn't even notice that they got tight again. Okay? So, to do that. So then when you get these three, forms of breathing under, kind of adjusted, so it's not windy, it's not uneven, and it's not coarse, or ordinary breath, then your breathing is more subtle, your mind becomes more subtle, your mind is more relaxed. Yeah. So relaxed, is not the ordinary concept of relax. We usually think, I need to relax, so I sit down in front of my wide screen TV and click, going from station to station. We call that relax. That is not relaxing. Okay. That's making our mind full of garbage. Yeah. Relaxing is when your mind is just peaceful. Okay? So also relax doesn't mean like I'm going to lie down and stretch my legs out, I'm so tired. You can be sitting in a very firm position, but your body can be, and mind can both be relaxed. Okay? So your breathing process is a little bit slower, it's smoother, and it's more relaxed. And so breathing in that way automatically affects your mind. And it makes your mind more stable, more peaceful, more content. And then with that mind, you start your meditation. Okay? So then he gives some advice here to adjust the breath if it is windy, uneven, or ordinary. Focus the mind at the navel, because this has a stabilizing effect. Okay? And then check that your body is relaxed and free of tension. And imagine your breath penetrating all your pores freely without obstruction. So it's not like your body is encased in saran wrap. Okay? And so in this way, try and make the mind relaxed. And it also, by doing this, it prevents imbalances in your wind or in your chi. Okay? Then he says, so that's how to balance your breath. Now, how to balance your mind. Yeah. So first we have to rein in distracted thoughts. Mm-hmm. So we have to rein in distracted thoughts. And then we look out to see if the mind is becoming lethargic or sleepy or agitated, or, if there's laxity. We have to be aware of the mind. So we have to use two mental factors here. Mindfulness anchors our focus on the object of meditation. And this is what we've been doing here, the image of the Buddha. And introspective awareness checks if our mind is still focused on our object of awareness or if we're off in la land or falling asleep or something like that. Okay, so lethargy or sinking is when the mind is muddled and unclear. And so at this time it's helpful, put your attention at the tip of your nose. Yeah. So your mind heavy and unclear, you put your attention higher in your body. Yeah. In terms of the visualization of the Buddha, you make the visualization brighter. Yeah, that'll counteract lethargy and sleepiness. Okay. If your mind is fidgety and restless, ill at ease, unsettled, okay, then it's very helpful to put your focus back here down at your navel, because that helps to stabilize the very restive energy, and that stops the distractions. Because, when we're distracted, our internal energy is, when we can control that energy, and focusing at the navel can be very good. Okay, so you see, when your mind is too dull, you focus up here, or you make the image brighter. If your mind is too fidgety, you focus lower in your body, or you you make the image of the Buddha maybe a wee bit smaller. Okay, or you also imagine the Buddha being a little heavier, even though light, so light but heavy. Okay, made of light but still heavy. Okay. So agitation may arise when mindfulness is strong and the mind is more concentrated. Okay. And at that time, the mind's focus has moved upward so that the chest area becomes painful. The Tibetans call this soklong. Okay, Tibetans talk about the same energy, this whole thing with your energy. Okay, if your chest starts hurting, then you really got to change things. Yeah, do not continue to meditate focusing here if it's hurting, if there's tension here. Yeah, do not do that. It's very helpful at that time if there starts to become pain here, you move it down to your navel again. Yeah, because your heart center is very sensitive. Your navel center is much firmer and steadier. Okay? So you don't want the energy to get stuck here because you're worried, because you're stressed, because you're in the middle of some strong emotion. Because you know how it is. When we say, when we feel a strong emotion, where do we feel it? Not in our little toe. We feel it here. Okay? So, if we're having an afflictive emotion and there's some pain here, immediately put your concentration back down here, if you're breathing, or make the Buddha look a bit heavier. Okay? Okay, so, and really make sure your mind's relaxed. Okay, so if you're worrying or whatever, stop the worry. And you can train your mind also, this practice of training your mind, of saying, that is not worth my thinking about right now. Okay. Sometimes the afflictive emotion is so strong, if you say it's not worth thinking about it, you get off it for about 2 seconds and then you're back on it. When that happens, then you have to take your mind off your object of meditation and, for example, meditate on impermanence and death if your mind is too agitated, because that will help your mind calm down. Okay, that is a very sobering kind of meditation. So laxity manifests when we don't maintain suitable posture in meditation, and the lack of mental lucidity and determination has set in. Okay, so you lose your lucidity, you lose your determination. So reestablishing your meditation posture and anchoring the mind with strong mindfulness on the object of meditation is the way to overcome that more subtle form of laxity. Okay, so then after you've gotten all that adjusted, then we maintain strong mindfulness to see that our body, breath, and mind remain balanced. Okay, so the imbalances of these three, they don't happen in any particular order. So we just have to monitor the situation, checking on it from time to time in the back of our mind, not making that the object of our meditation, just scanning, like a background scan on your computer, okay? So we check our body to make sure it's in the proper position, We, if anything's askew, we straighten it up and whatever. We check our breathing if it's gentle and smooth. If not, we go back and adjust that. And if the breath has become too coarse, again settle it down. Okay, so if we can do that, then that prevents imbalances in the energy system. The Tibetans call that lung. Okay. And then how we emerge from our meditation is also very important. So since our body, breath, and mind have become more subtle during the meditation, you don't just ring the bell and pop up, and run off and do something. Okay. Okay, if you immediately get up from the cushion and start rushing around without allowing your body, breath, and mind to adjust, then we may experience headaches or stiffness later. And in future meditation sessions, we may feel uncomfortable or fidgety. Because it was too abrupt of a change. Okay. So they say when coming out of meditation, first allow your mind to focus on a different object, not your object of meditation. Okay, and then open your mouth and gently exhale, imagining it dispersing all the winds from the energy channels. So, getting your energy channels in shape again. Then you uncross your feet, you move them around, and then you rub your hands, together to warm them. And then you can rub your face or rub your body a little bit. I recommend doing that. Okay, doesn't take long. It's not you're giving yourself a massage for 5 minutes. It's just a little bit. Or you can rub your hands and then put them over your eyes too, and then open your eyes. Okay? And they say that dispels any excessive physical heat in the body. Yeah? Okay? So, taking care of entering, abiding, and arising from meditation plants the seeds for us to be like the great bodhisattvas described in the Lotus Sutra. And here's a quote from the Lotus Sutra. For the sake of the Buddha path, the bodhisattvas in this great assembly have already diligently practiced effort for an incalculable number of tens of millions of crore of eons. They have become skillful in entering, abiding in, and emerging from an incalculable number of trillions of crores of samadhis. They have gained great superknowledges, have long cultivated the pure holy conduct, and have become well able to practice in appropriate sequence all of the good dharmas. So we can become like that. Okay? It'll take some practice, but we can become like that. Yeah, so I think that's helpful for us to remember. Okay? Also, another thing is to, maintain this kind of introspective awareness and mindfulness when we're eating. There's some activities in our life where the mind just gets really excited, maybe because of, previous habit or what happened. But it's like, the food's on the table and we're jumping for the food. It's like, I got to get the food from the line. I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take this. And then we get to our seat and we put it down, and it's there. And then our focus goes on the food. And you can watch. Some people are like this, It's like, and you can tell the mind is somewhere else. The mind is like, I'm inhaling the food. Yeah? So we should really, and the body is tense at that time. So we need to really be aware when we eat, eat gracefully. Yeah? Take a bite, chew it. Yeah, don't be 3 bites beyond the one you're already chewing. Okay? And, because you can really see, it's like, making a sandwich. Cut the bread. It's like Maitri, how Maitri eats, like how Upeka eats, So we got to, just slow down. The food's not going to disappear. Yeah, broaden the mind. Don't sink your food into a potato. I mean, don't sink your mind into a potato. Okay? The potato will still be there. Just, eat and let your body chew. Let the food go in. Okay? Because you'll find if you do that, then, you digest better, you feel better. Yeah, and you eat less? Yeah, well, more normal. I mean, you give a chance for the food to go in your body and to get digested. Yeah, so the digestion process is better. Okay, so this whole thing of eating on the run, you take what do people eat now? Those things, breakfast, something, bars. Yeah, it says nutritious, but I don't know what kind of nutrition it is. But you're sitting in your car and you open that packet while you're driving, while you're flicking the radio, while you're doing your phone. By the way, it's illegal in Washington State to hold your phone while you're driving. So you're doing all of that at once, or even you're sitting at the table, eating. The guys who are in prison, they tell me, they eat like this, to make sure nobody else snatches their food. But you're hunched over your food and protecting it, and want to get it in as soon as possible, and then your digestion isn't so good, and your mind is rather disturbed also. Okay. So questions, comments? Yeah.
It's about the image of the Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be as similar as possible each time, because I've been like using
Yes.
different ones depending
Yeah.
on how I feel.
Yeah. No, make it as similar as possible. It's not one time the face looks like this and another time like that. Just fix on one image. Okay.
I heard you say that if you're not in full lotus, you should put your left leg up or your right leg on your thigh.
For full Vajra,
Right, yeah, that's both.
then you put your left on your right and then your right on your left. Okay? Then half is you put the right down, so your left foot is on your right thigh.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
I'm wondering about movement and concentration, and I'm wondering if in the Tibetan tradition there's any use of yoga and that sort of thing. There seems a great emphasis on
Yeah.
stillness.
Yeah, the Tibetans have some exercise they do. Some of the meditators do these. Personally speaking, I think it's very good to do yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or just plain stretching exercises. That can be very helpful to do in between meditation sessions, as can walking. So that's why the walking meditation, that we're doing can be very helpful. Yeah.
So I've been told by previous meditation teachers that if you're experiencing pain while sitting, and I know you mentioned yesterday you had leg pain when you were first starting out in your meditation. For those of us who have like hip or back or shoulder pain while in meditation, I've been told before to imagine your breath going through that area of pain. Do you agree with that? And if not, what would you suggest?
Yeah, that can be helpful to imagine the breath flowing through that. It can also be helpful to imagine light in that area and also to really check and see if you can relax the muscles somewhat. Yeah. If it gets so painful that you're getting distracted, move. That's my philosophy. Some teachers say you sit there no matter how bad it hurts. That's not my philosophy. Okay? If it's so bad that you're getting distracted, readjust your position. Okay? But yeah, try it. Experiment with some things. Some people say just putting your attention there can help release it. I think for me, I find if I put my attention there and imagine light, it's more helpful than just the attention there. Or sometimes it's also interesting to put your attention and try and draw a line around the border of where the pain is. A mental line, like where exactly is this pain? It's very interesting. I can never get a line all the way around the pain. Yeah, because the pain changes. Yeah, it changes. Imagine that.
In your teachings, I've been really struck by the way these classical texts describe something that we would in English just use a superlative. 10,000, this is 10,000, that's.
Incalculable number.
Right, so I was just wondering, do these languages not have superlatives?
Oh, no, they really mean incalculable.
Okay.
And countless. They really mean that.
I wasn't sure whether it was meant to be literal.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah. The idea being that the capacity of our mind is limitless. Yeah. The capacity of what we can do with a purified mind, a totally purified mind, is beyond our ability to conceive at this point. Yeah. So I think they're trying to get us to see that we have more potential in life than to make money. Yeah.
Do you find it helpful to try to learn some Sanskrit when pursuing Tibetan Buddhism? I've had friends that learned it, and they said that it had a meditative quality for them to repeat the syllables and use flashcards and so forth.
Well, the mantras that we say are in Sanskrit.
Right, right.
Yeah, so those are in Sanskrit. If you want to learn Sanskrit so you could read the texts, that's fantastic. But it takes a while to learn Sanskrit.
Yeah,
I've heard it's very difficult. But, certainly whatever ancient language you can read is
Well,
good.
I find when we're doing those mantras in Sanskrit that I feel elevated. I don't know how to
You feel
describe it.
what?
Elevated. I feel
Yeah.
a bit higher
Oh, yeah, there's definite energy in reciting mantras.
because that's almost the oldest language, and that's the root source for many other languages, and quite beautiful.
Yeah. But it's also that the mantras, it's not just the language, it's that the mantras are a verbal expression of a Buddha's realization. So as if, a Buddha with their realization is trying to express their experience in language. It comes out as a mantra. We recite the mantra to try and go into an experience like what the Buddha is having. Yeah, because the energy of the mantra, when you recite a mantra a lot, it has a certain energy. You can feel it in the chi, in the winds in your body, and how it purifies.
Are there some Sanskrit words that are difficult to translate into English? Like, say, are there some short Sanskrit phrases that would take a paragraph of English, for instance?
Oh, yeah,
And if
for
you
sure.
say that short word, you're saying a lot more in a shorter space of time?
Well, if you understand what you're saying.
Well, yeah.
Okay? So, that's why in general, with the mantras, we do them in Sanskrit because there's something about the vibration of the mantra. But
Right.
when we do our other practices, we do them in the language we understand.
Right.
Because we've got to understand what we're saying, what we're visualizing, what to think. Yeah, we're not just blindly chanting Tibetan. La, 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 la. It sounds great because the Tibetans have great, you feel holy and they have beautiful melodies. But if
Yeah.
you don't understand what you're saying, then you can't really be doing the meditation. Okay?
Thanks.
But that's different than mantra.